This is the story of Seiichi Hiiragi, who lives the life of a loser and gets ruthlessly bullied by his high school mates for his looks and his weight. However, getting labeled as a failure by his peers doesn't last long, as everyone's life does a 180 and changes everything they ever knew. Seiichi's entire school is abruptly transferred to a video game like Realm of Swords and Sorcery. Just when his bad luck appears to be getting worse and all hope appears to be lost, he stumbles upon a unique fruit known as the Fruit of Evolution, which may be his first step towards becoming the main character he was meant to be. The scene opens with a handsome male character introducing himself as Seiichi while standing in a bright lit cave and claiming to be in a place that is definitely not Earth. As the surge of blinding light disappears, his jaw drops to the floor to find a beautiful bear woman lying in front of him. It is clearly a view the boy has never seen before. To add to his confusion and shock, the woman leaps at him and holds him tight, causing Seiichi to experience a nosebleed. As if that wasn't enough, she confesses her love for him and begs him to marry her. At that moment, Seiichi starts wondering how he got into this position in the first place, and the backstory begins. In a lively classroom where everyone's going on about their daily convos, there is a chubby boy lying face down on the floor with scratches on his face. Although he looks nothing like the guy from the opening scene, this is Seiichi Hiiragi. He is getting bullied for being smelly, overweight, and ugly. Just when his bullies are about to leave, a loud voice erupts from speakers, causing everyone to sit back in their seats in terror, except for Seiichi, who is still on the floor busy drowning in his tears. The voice claims to be a god and tells everyone that they are about to get immediately teleported to another world where they have to act as heroes. This god also equips everyone with skills and suggests everyone form groups to spawn in a safer place. As one would expect, Seiichi the outcast gets left behind due to his extremely low stats. Seeing this, the voice grants him one special skill and initiates teleportation. 5 days pass by and Seiichi is shown to be wandering in a forest alone on an empty stomach. That is when he comes across a strange-looking fruit but eats it anyway. A voice inside his head informs him that the effects of the fruits are being activated. Having absolutely zero clue what it means, Seiichi moves on and attempts to steal food from a group of level 120 monkeys despite the fact that he is only at level 1. When the monkeys leave for a moment, he succeeds in stealing a couple more fruits and high-grade recovery potions. Meanwhile, the rest of the school has spawned in a safe location. A small group of students is shown worrying if Seiichi is doing okay alone. Seiichi is in fact not doing okay as he eats a poisonous mushroom, despite a warning from the appraisal tool, and collapses on the floor. While eating the last fruit he stole, he realizes its effects. Over the course of the week, the fruit has helped him advance his ranks and acquire paralysis and poison resistance among other skills. Finally, the fruit completely evolves Seiichi, giving him an attractive appearance. But him being an ungrateful brat is still dissatisfied because his rank hasn't gone up. 5 months pass by and Seiichi gets the hang of using his skills against all sorts of creatures. Out of 10 painful evolutions, only 1 is left. This is when a pink gorilla named Seiria attacks Seiichi and orders him to fight her. When he dodges her every attack, she falls in love and kidnaps him. Seiichi's life seems to be going pretty well for a hostage who is monitored 24/7 by a fancy gorilla. She cooks for him, hunts for him, and even sews his clothes, all in an attempt to be the perfect bride for him. Despite all her efforts, Seiichi blatantly rejects her due to their obvious difference in species. He tries to look for an escape route, and when a perfect opportunity shows itself, his freedom is denied by a 10 feet tall spider. Seiria wastes no time in punching the spider into outer space, and her concern for him deeply moves Seiichi. Seiria reveals that she had been gathering evolution fruit for her future husband, but some numbskull had the audacity to steal them. Seiichi gulps as soon as he realizes that he is the said numbskull. It is also revealed that when someone eats 11 fruits, they die. So basically, Seiichi is 1 fruit away from his grave. When he discloses that he is the culprit, it reignites Seiria's passion to marry him, causing Seiichi to run away for his life. He enters a gloomy-looking cave despite Seiria's warning not to. Inside the cave, he meets a skeleton named Zenus, who challenges him to a battle. He shoves his blade through his chest, but as the scene zooms out, it is shown that it was Seiria who took the hit and dies. Enraged, Seiichi uses the combination of every skill he ever acquired and succeeds in killing Zenus. Moved by the display of love between Seiichi and Seiria, Zenus dies in peace and promises to reunite with his ex-lover. Not much later, Seiria transforms into the girl from episode 1. Seiichi undergoes his final evolution and is visited by Mr. Rabbit, who is the administrator of Zenus Dungeon. Now that they have cleared this stage, he gifts them some travel funds and gifts to make the best out of their evolution. Meanwhile, Seiichi's schoolmates are getting trained under the command of the king of this world, but the students seem dissatisfied with the basic training and some of them decide to leave and train on their own. After receiving the gifts from Mr. Rabbit, they both leave to find the nearest city. Seiichi plans on joining an adventurers guild and obtaining proof of identification because it can make it easier for him to find his other schoolmates, especially Kanazuki-senpai. Seiichi levels up by eliminating a level 88 slime, which helps him in powering up even more. At this point, Seiichi is worried that he is becoming more of a monster every day. At the gate of the capital city, Tilbert, they are warned by the bodyguard named Claude not to go anywhere near the guild. The warning starts making sense as soon as Seiichi opens the main door of the guild and finds a masochist old man getting whipped by the receptionist. After questioning their decision to enter for a while, they are forced inside by the guild master. It soon becomes obvious that this is a guild of perverts when three men take Seiichi to celebrate his registration by having a good time. Seiya and Seiichi are told by the guild master that they are supposed to give a couple of tests to assess their compatibility with different quests. During their tests, they will be accompanied by a high-rank adventurer, Artoria the Tsundere, who seems like another member of Seiichi's harem. The three quests on the agenda include helping an orphanage, demolishing a building, and walking a dog. Seiya suggests that she is the best choice for helping the orphans, so Artoria and Seiichi move on to the next quest. Seiichi gently places his hand on the building to be demolished and it crumbles down. It is revealed that Artoria believes bad things happen to people around her, so she starts taking the blame on herself while removing the rubble. She takes a sigh of relief and starts giving him an earful as soon as he comes out. After completing the last quest, which turns out to be walking a giant wolf instead of a dog, Seiya and Seiichi are paid for their services for the day. To everyone's surprise, Artoria offers them the chance to stay at her inn, which they both happily accept. In the next part of the test, Artoria commands Seiichi and Seiya to collect medicinal herbs. While Seiya impresses Artoria with her herb collection skills, Seiichi can't help but find rare items instead of regular herbs. Embarrassed, Seiichi runs away deep into the forest to make Artoria proud by completing the test. There he runs across a trio of demons planning to set up teleportation traps to reduce the human army by sending them to the Black Dragon Castle. Seiichi politely interrupts their conversation and asks them where he can find medicinal herbs. Thinking that he was eavesdropping on their secret conversation, they use their troll to launch an offensive against him. However, seeing him effortlessly absorb the attack of the troll, all four of them cower away only to get beaten by their demon master, Leia. The last part of the guild test requires Seiya and Seiichi to eliminate 10 slime balls. The test seems easy, but just when Seiichi swings his sword at the first slime, it disappears. Artoria smartly deduces that teleportation traps have been set up everywhere. Her diligence doesn't last long, as 3 seconds later she herself falls into one. In attempts to help her, Seiichi and Seiya get teleported to the Dragon Castle along with her. As soon as Artoria gives them a guiding stone to help her locate her in case they get separated, a wall rises from the ground and separates them. In hopes to find Artoria, Seiya and Seiichi run into a treasure chest and choose to ignore it, calling it an obvious trap. This enrages the treasure chest, which attacks them in response, but Seiichi handles it with just one spell. As a gift, they get to know its tragic story and a couple more reward items. Suddenly, the guiding stone turns red, indicating that Artoria's life is in danger. It is shown that after fighting mummies, she has entered the chamber of the dragon. She even activates her calamity form, but it is of no use as the dragon slashes her body, and she falls helplessly to the floor, praying that somehow Seiya and Seiichi can get to home. Just when the dragon blows fire at her, Seiichi stands in front of her using his robe to protect all three of them. Seiichi has a hard time fighting against the dragon. Most of his skills get nullified by it. Seiichi uses appraisal and is shocked to find out that its skill level is 5000, which is twice the level of Zenus. When the dragon is about to use his final move by summoning Hell's Inferno, Seiya reminds Seiichi to use his move that summons gushes of water from the sky. This proves helpful and puts out the fire. Out of nowhere, Seiichi receives additional skills which help him in slaying the dragon. Before dying, the dragon states that it will always hate humans for separating him from his lover. Seiya and Seiichi, ignoring the treasure box that popped up after the dragon's death, start panicking over how they are supposed to go home. Eventually, Seiichi opens the treasure and bawls his eyes out after reading the dragon's tragic biography. He also obtains the ability to use spatial magic, which he uses to take everyone home. Artoria, being the tsundere she is, panics when she finds herself getting carried by Seiichi. She apologizes to everyone for risking their lives and opens her stats to show them her negative 2 million luck. She assumes that everyone must always look for excuses to avoid her due to her being the harbinger of calamity. However, her assumption is proven wrong when she enters the guild and finds her friends working hard in an attempt to look for her. She runs away in embarrassment, but Seiichi follows her. In the rubble of the same demolished building, Seiichi hugs her to calm her down and assures her that she is loved. He also gifts her the ring he obtained from the treasure chest that he believes has the powers to negate bad luck. In the end, he asks her to be happy together. As one would expect, Artoria runs away while blushing, and Seiichi realizes that he might have just accidentally proposed to her. The next day, Artoria starts avoiding Seiichi, who mistakes her behavior as anger. Seiya goes back to her orphanage quest while Seiichi decides to wander around the town and get more info on how he can find his other schoolmates. The king has decided to enslave the students from Earth to prevent them from escaping the war against the Demon Lord and his army. Seiichi reads ancient books at a library to understand magic better. The only problem is that he doesn't believe demons are necessarily evil. Also, he can't flip a page without unlocking a new skill. All of this makes him want to be a normal kid again. After ranting to himself, he visits a nearby bar. A man who claims to be an ordinary civilian advises him to marry the girl he has gifted the ring, or he would have to be castrated by law. The bartender suggests marrying both girls if he has another one in his heart. Seiichi leaves to pick up Seiya from the orphanage. Somehow, Artoria knew he'd be there, so she falls into his embrace and confesses her love while kissing him. Seiya witnesses everything, but to Seiichi's surprise, she doesn't protest. In fact, she likes the idea of all three of them living together. The guild members and the men from the bar gather around to celebrate the addition to Seiichi's harem. Now that Seiichi has become a high-rank adventurer, the muscle guy from the guild recommends Seiichi buy a horse. To get him to stop pestering him, Seiichi agrees. While his wives are busy on different quests, Seiichi follows the map to buy a horse. The stable owner shows him different breeds until he arrives at Lulun, which is a super strong donkey. She gets shocked when Seiichi understands her language. After knocking out her owner, she tries to kick Seiichi but fails. He effortlessly tames her thanks to his strength, and she agrees to serving him for a lifetime. On their way through the city, he meets Mei, the girl he had previously bought a painting from. Apparently, she is hesitating about joining a painting competition and her friend is trying to convince her. She isn't sure if she should compete, but Seiichi interrupts and suggests a deal. If he succeeds in the royal horse race, Mei will have to enter the art exhibition. She accepts, but on the day of the competition, Lulun falls ill because she skipped breakfast. Fortunately, Seiichi gives her some of his evolutionary fruit, enabling her to take first place in the race. Owing to the benefits of the fruit Seiichi gave Lulun before the race, she transforms into a human form. Unlike Seiya, Artoria does not seem to be happy at this new addition to Seiichi's harem. His ecstasy, on the other hand, can be observed from his unstoppable nosebleeds. To honor the winner of the royal race, Seiichi is brought to Wimberg's royal castle, Archel. There, he has the opportunity to meet Louise Baltz, the Valkyrie's captain. To gauge Seiichi's abilities, she challenges him to a training match. However, it doesn't take her long to acknowledge his skills, and as soon as he wins, she declares herself to be his apprentice from that day onwards. Louise spends her days in loneliness being the strongest swordswoman. This reminds Seiichi of his lonely time on Earth, eating lunch in the bathroom to avoid getting bullied. Unfortunately, their bonding time comes to an end when an assassin attacks the king of Wimberg during Seiichi's stay, and the Valkyries rush in. Seiichi uses his magic, and everyone is surprised when the assassin is revealed to be a little girl. Meanwhile, Seiichi's classmates are moved to Barbador Magical Academy. It is still unclear what role they would play in the war against demons. In the meantime, Lucia, the demon lord's daughter, gathers the governing council and decides to negotiate a peace treaty with the humans of Wimberg. This is met with poor response from the council members, especially from Kraze, Lucia's advisor, who is advocating for war against humans. At the castle's training grounds, Seiichi spots the assassin and easily catches her. His body automatically attacks her against his will as a defense mechanism, but he is relieved when she dodges the attack. He reveals her identity as Orga Chimera and sends the Valkyries to question her. Due to Orga's curse, the king is still in serious condition, and only Seiichi can save him. After spending hours on end yelling "get better," somehow a spell activates and he is able to heal the king by conjuring his own healing magic. Also, the king turns out to be Ranz, the man from the bar who claimed to be an ordinary civilian and had before given him advice on how to handle his love life troubles. Ranz rewards Seiichi by letting him use the castle to hone his magic and combat abilities. Meanwhile, back at the guild, Artoria is worried about Seiichi staying at Wimberg for too long. She imagines weird scenarios of how everyone might be confessing their love to Seiichi. Zakia, the experienced soldier who had been teaching Seiichi's classmates how to fight, is shocked to discover that Helia, the Kaiser Emperor's hired mage, had placed necklaces on the students to keep them from becoming a potential danger to the kingdom. He also doubts the Emperor's decision to send them to Barbador Magical Academy. However, before he could investigate the matters further, a sudden assassination attempt on the king prompts him to go after the suspect. After Zakia leaves, the king reveals that he sent an assassin to kill Ranz because he had been planning to form an alliance with the demons. Seiichi and Louise observe Olga being interrogated by Lorna, one of Louise's Valkyries. They halt the questioning when they learn that Olga is wearing a slave collar that binds her to the Kaiser Empire's instructions, and Seiichi is able to free her by again creating his own freedom spell. Afterward, Louise is required to examine monster activity near Wimberg's borders. Before she leaves, she requests Seiichi to watch after King Ranz in her absence. Meanwhile, Zakia encounters Sheen, the archer who attempted the assassination. The latter reveals that he is enraged at the loss of the demon woman he loved and has vowed vengeance on the Kaiser Kingdom for its harsh prejudice towards demons. Although Sheen manages to escape, Zakia is left wondering whether he is truly loyal to Kaiser Kingdom or not. Barnabas, a great magician who worked as Ranz's tutor, pays Archel a visit. He informs Ranz about the kids that have lately transferred to his Barbador Magical Academy, which causes Seiichi to understand that those new students are his Japanese colleagues. Suddenly, a soldier notifies Ranz that a monster army has launched an attack on Tilbert. Unfortunately, Louise and her Valkyries joined an army commanded by the Black Paladin, Wimberg's greatest soldier, to combat monsters on Wimberg's boundaries, therefore they are not able to come back for the defense of Tilbert. Wimberg's surviving soldiers and the local adventurers guild band together to defend Tilbert and successfully repel the first assault of monsters. Eventually, the enemy's reinforcement arrives, leaving the soldiers no route for escape. While the guild members, even the bartender, are at the front line fighting the ever-emerging forces of the demons, Seiichi uses his every brain cell to come up with a spell that affects only a specific group of people. Eventually, he casts a judgment, which is an offensive spell that annihilates the opposing army while leaving Tilbert's defenders untouched. Barnabas congratulates Seiichi on rescuing the city and promises him a teaching post at Barbador, which Seiichi accepts on the condition that he wait until Louise and her army returns to Tilbert to assure Rand's well-being. Seiichi leaves for Barbador once Louise returns to Tilbert but gives his word that he will return. Meanwhile, Kraze is shocked to discover that the demon army was unable to eliminate Tilbert. This incompetence earns him the wrath of the Demon Lord, who had been intending to revive himself using the negative emotions triggered by the obliteration of the city. However, the Demon Lord sees his defeat as simply a momentary obstacle and vows to find another means to reclaim his dominance. It is revealed that his next target is going to be the Barbador Academy, where Kanazuki is waiting for Seiichi's arrival. Thanks for watching. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe and turn on notifications for more recaps on all your favorite anime shows. You don't want to miss out. Goodbye.